Hi, welcome to my channel and to the most overused book talk video idea ever. So in the title it says I'm a new reader, and I am a new reader. I've only been really starting to take reading seriously since the beginning of this year, 2022. I did read one book in 2021, and that was Shadow and Bone. So that was at the peak of my book talk era, and I've not grown out of it yet. As you can see, most of my books here are book talk books, but I'm going to be going over my 2022 reads, my ratings, and why I rated them that way. Starting off the year strong with Of Mice and Men. It was a school read, and I was kind of forced to read it very quickly because I was not going to be in school when we finished it, so I wanted to finish the book regardless, and I gave it a 4 out of 5, and I believe that that was just because it was a quick, nice, easy read. It was a little confusing, but you know, I was a new reader still very much at the time, and I just kind of was going with the flow. Based on all the analysis stuff that we did in school, I normally hate that, but it turned out pretty good. Second book is A Darker Shade of Magic. I got it for Christmas the year prior, and I finished it obviously in 2022 because I can't read that fast. So this is one of my favorite books that I've read. I've only read 13 books this year, by the way. This was one of my favorite ones. I gave it, of course, a 5 out of 5. Again, I was a new reader and I really like fantasy. I think that this is what made me realize that I really do like fantasy. So I have seen a lot of reviews, negative reviews about this book, and it's mostly about the characters and how they are not built up enough, and I don't know, people just didn't feel a connection with them. After I saw these reviews, I started thinking that I just made up their own backstories in my head. Like, obviously they had backstories, but I feel like I just kind of formed that connection that wasn't actually there because I read this book consistently, but throughout a very long period of time. So it's just kind of like the book was with me for a long time. Next is The Atlas 6. So I initially gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars because I stopped reading it for a little while because I got into a reading slump, and then I went back to it, and when I went back to it, it was kind of just boring because I was just finishing it, and I feel like book ends for me are always just boring. But looking back, I think I would definitely change this to 5 out of 5. This book was so good, and especially just diving into such a beautiful style of writing. Like, if you've read this book, you would know, but I absolutely loved the writing and the characters, and the plot was really, really good. So in conclusion, The Atlas 6, I love it. And something that I'm also proud about is that I have the original cover. Alright, number 4 is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn, Hugo. Oh my god, by far, I would say my favorite book that I read this year. I adored this book. Obviously gave it a 5 out of 5. It was, my reasoning for this is so good. But for me, I really just loved that, for one, gay romance, like secret gay romance novel. Oh my god, ate that up. And also the fact that she's an actor and I'm also an actor, and I'm trying to get into the film world, and seeing the film world from the perspective, I forget what year, but like growing up in like 1950s styles movies, like that was absolutely like, oh my god, I don't know why, I just loved it so much. And being able to see that and experience that as an actor or a film director, oh my god, so cool. Next is Red, White, and Royal Blue. I absolutely loved this book while I was reading it. I did give it a 5 out of 5. I think now I might give it like a 4 out of 5. But while I was reading it, I was absolutely on top of the world. I loved it. Overall, I pretty much liked all of the characters, and definitely, obviously, liked both of the main characters. And it was definitely a weird plot, something that I never really saw myself reading, like political rom-com. Interesting take, but it worked out, kind of. The reason that I would give this book a 4 out of 5 is because it definitely got boring at the end, and kind of just like halfway to 3/4 of the way in, I was like, okay, what else really is there to happen here? I don't know, I just kind of felt lost at the end. Like, the plot felt like it was, the plot was losing me and itself. Number 6 is all of the Heartstopper comics. I'm pretty sure I gave them all a 5 out of 5. Alice Osman is truly an amazing author. I really want to read some of her actual books and not just the comics. But Heartstopper, honestly, I think I just loved it for the reason that every single other person who read them loved it. I felt very connected to it and what the characters were going through, and obviously the TV series as well to go with it I really liked. I will admit I did watch the series before I read the books, but that's only because my local Barnes & Noble was sold out. Like, they only had a select number. They either had the first, fourth, third, or second. I don't know why I went in that order, but they never had all of them at once. So okay, number 7 is Acotar. This little nice book right here. So I'm very aware on the World and Book Talks and BookTube kind of opinions on Sarah J Maas, but I bought it a while ago. Like, I bought it around the beginning of the year, so before I really knew anything, I just knew that they were popular books, and I was like, I'm gonna read it, and I did, and it was interesting. It didn't feel slow, but the plot was not advancing, I should say. I've heard so much about this entire series, and I did not know which ones came in which books, and that love interest that I've heard so much about, so many good things, so many amazing, like, oh my god, he was barely even in the first book. So I think just because of my prior knowledge, I was a little confused, and again, it seemed like nothing happened in the whole book. It's just like, okay, she's doing this, and then this, and oh, she's back to this, and didn't this just happen? Why are we still on this for 5 chapters? Okay, so number 8 is Normal People by Sally Rooney. Now, I have a lot of things to say about this book. So I obviously found this book through TikTok, and I saw a lot of hype around it, a lot. I only saw positive things and people crying over it and people saying that this was a top 10 book to make you cry, and I honestly wanted a book that would make me cry. It was just kind of like reading, you know, romance and fantasy. I wanted something different. I wanted to try something new. Little did I know that this book would provide the most boring plot and characters of the year. Yay! It was definitely a different style of writing. I have nothing against it, and I've read more books since then with that style of writing, and it was just, I think, a little difficult to get used to for a first time, but once I did, you know, it was okay. So in conclusion, what I learned from Normal People is that real life is boring, and I never want to read about it again. I think it would have been a little better if I actually liked the 2 main characters, but I truthfully had zero connection to them, and anytime something happened that would have been like a, oh my god, and I'm gonna start crying now, I really just didn't care. I 100% believe that the book would have been so much better for me if I actually cared about the characters, but I didn't, and I still don't, and I have no intentions of rereading it and trying to care about them. Next we have They Both Die at the End. I gave this book a 5 out of 5. I hope you're not surprised, because I'm not. Now this was 100% the book that I needed to cry. This is like the complete opposite of Normal People. I had that connection with the characters and I enjoyed the plot. I thought that this book, regardless, was truly amazing, and I finished it during, I think it was like Father's Day or something, and I went into the other room to finish this book because I was so close to finishing it, and I started bawling my eyes out. I was literally sitting there like crying over this book, and my whole family comes in and they just see me crying, and I still haven't finished the book, so I was like, hold on guys, one more page, and that was so, it was just embarrassing. But the fact that I could read it with my whole family being in the other room and it still made me cry, that is impressive. Adam Silvera, I salute you. Last but not least, we have quite possibly the most interesting book. Interesting in terms of my opinion on it. So it is I Kissed Shara Wheeler by Casey McQuiston. I believe that's maybe, I don't know, I'm sorry. So if you did not know, they also wrote Red, White, and Royal Blue, so I did read 2 Casey books this year. So the same kind of issue that I had with Red, White, and Royal Blue followed through into I Kissed Shara Wheeler, but I'll get to that after. So the main thing is that I hated the main character. I absolutely hated her. The reason that this is so bad and so weird is that I did not hate her for the whole time. She was fine at first, and then halfway through, she was just an absolute. But then after she had her little phase of me absolutely wanting to throw my book across the room, she became fine again. That's the main reason why I did not like it, because literally the character that you're stuck with the entire time, you should at least kind of like them, and I did not. The other thing is that this book constantly felt like a game of cat and mouse. In the beginning, it was good and new concept. I'd never really read a mystery before, but at the end, it just kind of seemed pointless, and it did not have a satisfying end or conclusion to the mystery at all. My final conclusion is that Casey McQuiston cannot end a book. The end, especially on I Kissed Shara Wheeler, it dragged out so much. I feel like it should have ended a lot earlier than it actually did. Like, say if I'm on I'm reading chapter 40, but I think it should have ended at 38, but then there's 42 chapters. Yeah, that's why I did not like that book. Anyways, that is all of the books that I read this year. In total, it was 13, and I am currently reading To Kill a Kingdom, which so far, it's pretty good. So in the end, my Goodreads challenge goal was 20 books, and I ended up reading 13, and I might get to 14, we'll see, which I'm still very proud of myself for, because in 2020, I only read 1 book, so that's progress. Thank you so much for watching to the end, and hopefully I'll see you in the future. Thank you, and good night.